Well, welcome to another exciting podcast episode here at the Walsh College Creator Studio. I'm so excited to be joined by my friend, colleague, and Walsh College alum, Ryan Pettey. Ryan, welcome to Walsh College's podcast studio.
I'm very happy to be here. You know, I thought I was walking in to get a hoodie from the store.
Yes.
And then somebody sat me in this chair, so, let's do it.
We can still give you a hoodie, a Walsh College hoodie. We have the swag. But Ryan is referring to, this was our bookstore for years where we sold physical books. And then, even before COVID, so much of Walsh was online. We were hybrid. We were flexible for the learner. And then especially after COVID, that continued. So we had this beautiful space on campus, and we know we want to bring in alumni all-stars like you, industry experts, and really be able to showcase our students and alumni and business partners. So the studio was just fabulous. So I'm so glad that you're in here, and I'm so happy to talk to you about so many great things today. And you're also a part of our WAM, Walsh Alumni Mastermind, and it's so great to have you there as well, since that mastermind community is just so powerful.
Yeah, thank you. It really is. I was telling you before, it's an honor to be a part of. It's almost sometimes I feel like I'm watching it from the outside. It's a really powerful group. I didn't even know how much I'd get from it. But we'll get into that, actually. We'll actually talk about it because it's something that's so important.
And you've been in with us for about a year, because I remember it was like a cold March day. We were up at the front, and it was one of the first ones you would come to. Yeah. And I think everybody was kind of acclimating to, what is this mastermind group? What is this community? What are we doing? What are we supposed to talk about? And now a year in, that group has really gelled. And I was just there yesterday with you all, and I was so surprised and excited to see that. But let's talk about your journey. Tell us a little bit about where you were before you came to Walsh to earn your BBA, and then what made you choose Walsh, and then we'll talk a little bit about what you've done since you earned your degree.
Sure. Where I was before Walsh, frankly, I was lost. I had started my career without my degree and had been doing well, and I figured that I was going to be doing well. And then I found out that I was going to have a daughter. My wife was pregnant, and my life turned upside down, literally. My priorities changed, everything changed, and I had a moment of lucidity, this moment of consciousness, like I have to be better, not just for her, but for myself. So what made me choose Walsh? My college journey was absolutely fraught. I started at Western Michigan University for a couple of years. I went to Oakland College for a little bit. Goodness, 2 more colleges later, and I'm living in Royal Oak, and something brought me to Walsh. I can't even name it, but when I walked in here the first time, not even walked in here, when I walked into the parking lot, and I'm seeing that these are other professionals. I'm walking in with other people that are wearing ties, and I'm looking at my tie thinking, I thought I was going to be the old guy on campus, and I'm just one of the other people. So I felt an amazing sense of belonging immediately, not knowing that I was also looking for that belonging. Sat down in my first class, and the teacher was a professional. The other people were professionals. The conversations we had were different. They were different than the conversations that I had at Oakland or at Western Michigan. And not taking anything away from them, but when you're here with other professionals, it changes. It changes how you learn and what you learn. I think you talked about Brian. I almost feel like I'm repeating what he said. Yeah. But it's so true.
Yeah.
And you learn more, and you want to learn more. And so it just changed my perspective. So that's where I was before Walsh. I was building a career. I was building a family, and then I realized that I wanted to be more. So that got me here.
Ryan, I love how you said the Walsh for people wearing ties. Maybe that's something we stock in our merchandise, Walsh ties, because you were talking about the Walsh hoodie. It's like, wait a second, we should do Walsh ties. But that's such a great point, because we hear that from so many of our students and alumni, that they came to Walsh for a better life because they saw the power that education, specifically business education, has to transform your career, your life, and it works with the working professional.
Yep.
Were you able to go to school, work at the same time? You had that flexibility?
Absolutely. I was working. I was going to school. My daughter was born before I graduated. So I was doing it all.
Yeah.
As I'm told now, I'm doing the most, and I really was. But the thing about Walsh is it gave me that flexibility. Not only was it close, but then when I got to the last semester, I could do that one online, or I could do a class here and there online. I never liked it. I always preferred to be, but to have that flexibility, that's what made it possible. honestly, I probably would not have made it without that flexibility.
Oh, you would not have made it without we hear that all the time. And so people love the community and the connection. That's why our career fairs and the events that we have on campus, WHAM, Walsh Alumni Mastermind. But the flexibility so many times is the key for folks finishing.
Absolutely.
Because you're absolutely right. Life happens. You had a full life. And I mean, you were living a lot of it. And you're going, and I'm going to continue to get my degree because you saw the value of earning that degree.
Yep.
That's incredible.
Absolutely. And the value of that degree, I mean, I won't talk numbers, but after I graduated, it doubled.
We can talk numbers in here. This is a business college.
My income doubled.
Yeah.
I set the goal the day after I graduated that I was going to make 6 figures within 5 years. I beat it by 2.
Nice.
And it was having that degree. We talk about the need for a master's. Some of the other people that have been on the show or with you, they talk that they need that. But before that, you have to have at least the bachelor's.
Yes.
In this day and age, forget it.
Yeah.
Forget it. And I could see that ceiling. I knew it was coming. And I was, what am I going to do? Because it's not going to be in automotive where I'm at now.
Yeah.
I wouldn't make it. So, but as soon as I got the degree, not only did it give me the expertise and the knowledge, but it gave me the confidence.
Yes.
To walk into the room.
Well, and you mentioned Brian Plarski was on the prior podcast interview, and he talked about how he saw job placements were like, you need 10 years of experience or a master's degree. And he's like, well, I'm going to go the master's route because if I get the education, that'll put my resume in a different pile.
Absolutely.
And you're speaking into that too with the confidence that it gives you, that Walsh College confidence that says, I've done this, I've worked hard. I mean, people earn our degrees. They're not given, they're earned. And I can now do this in the world. And the brand is recognized so well. I was talking to someone earlier today, an alum, and she said, wow, that, my parents were alumni, my former boss was an alum. They said, you're going to Walsh, you're going to be great. You can learn this. We'll put you in this job and trust you to do it. So I really love your heart in that. So then tell us a little bit about after you graduated Walsh, kind of your career journey, and then what are you looking at next? Like, where do you see yourself going? Because I know as part of the Walsh Alumni Mastermind community, we're goal setting, we're doing all sorts of great success strategies. So where do you see yourself going now?
Yeah. So my career really, it took off. I'm going to be honest and say that I feel like I've hit a plateau, but this is the plateau that I want to be at. Okay. But after I graduated, my career really went into hyperdrive. Nice. I was able to, the autonomy that we were talking about before the podcast started, I had that autonomy and I could make these different moves. When I was at a company, I started probably my first really great gig after my degree was at Valio, which is a fantastic company. And I got every opportunity that they could throw at me while I was there. 3 different jobs in 4 years, but these were jobs that I saw, that I wanted. Their rule was you're supposed to stay in your role for 3 years before you move. And I was unstoppable, unstoppable. I felt unstoppable, But, so then we'll get into the plateau a little bit, but just again, I come back to that confidence, just being able to know that whatever it was, I could do it. And I tell you what, that confidence, I could trace it back to one class. It was the manufacturing capstone class. I mean, It was the most strenuous, in-depth, detailed class that I've ever taken in my life. In my absolute life. Wow. And I learned more. I used it on the phone call that I took before here, talking about efficiency. I'm a salesperson, but I'm the salesperson that's talking about OEE, right? I'm the salesperson that's talking about what are we going to do if they double volume? That doesn't mean that you double inventory. That means probably more than you triple or quadruple inventory, because I have that background and it's from that specific class.
Isn't that amazing? You learn that in the class, and that's another thing we hear from our students is they're learning in the class real world knowledge, real world learning, so they can apply it right away. They almost sometimes forget they're in a classroom. So everything you shared, and I love what you said about the confidence and unstoppable. That could be the tagline for this episode, unstoppable confidence. I mean, that's so true, right? Because you feel like not only am I getting my degree of value, and our degrees are a great value, but you're also learning skills on the job that you can apply right away so that your supervisors can see that. And I love how you phrase the gratitude with which you have with your employer, where you said, that one employer said, I have 3 different jobs in 4 years, and you just approach your life that way. So Ryan, where did that come from? That sense of just gratitude and service, and you don't have that entitlement mindset, you have a contribution mindset.
Yeah. Well, it comes into exactly what we're going to lead into, what I'm doing next, really.
Good.
I will back up just a little bit and say that so much of my life before that I had done growing up in a scarcity mindset. My family had a scarcity mindset. My cousins all had scarcity mindsets. And so that sets you up to have that scarcity mindset. So when I came to go get my degree here, I wanted to be better. I just didn't know how much better I could be.
Wow.
I didn't know that. So over the last probably couple years before I joined WHAM last year, I started to wake up, so to speak. I started to have this consciousness about myself that I'm just the tip of the iceberg.
Wow.
This is just the tip of the iceberg, and it kind of hit. I've had fantastic bosses my entire career, so I could say one of my favorite bosses probably 5 or 6 different times in this podcast, but one of my favorite bosses left, and I had the thought, maybe I'll put my head in for his job, because this is what I've always wanted. I want to be a director. That's the next level for me. And after thinking about it for about 10 minutes, I thought, you know what? That's not what I want.
Wow.
That's not what I want. And so why? Why isn't that what I want? Well, that's because I want to belong to something bigger. I don't want to just belong to an automotive organization. I want to belong to a movement. I want to belong to reaching people. And I wrote that. I was talking earlier. I wrote that on a sticky today. I can be one of the people that reaches somebody that needs to be reached.
Nice.
That's what I want to. That's what I want to do. That's my next iteration. Talk about writing a book, right? I'm in this process of writing a book. The book is about my journey to heal from my symptoms of MS, but it's becoming so much more.
Oh, I love this. I mean, everything you spoke into is beyond just, the basics, beyond books. It's beyond business. It really goes into how can I make the biggest contribution in the world? And it taps into your calling. Ryan, let's go there if you're willing to on the personal side, because one of the other nice things is you're part of a movement, in a sense, of a book that I'm writing called Quantum Lead that talks about quantum entanglement, quantum physics in leadership, in life. And your story, your personal journey with health, not only inspired everyone in that mastermind, inspired myself, but it will inspire so many. So give us a little insight into that and where you are now and what you see as being your purpose in the world.
Yeah. Well, first of all, quantum leadership and the quantum aspect of this. When I saw your post on Facebook, I literally
LinkedIn, I think it was.
LinkedIn,
yeah, no, it's okay. I always say that because people think they can find me on Facebook, and I was like, no, it's LinkedIn. That's
Which is funny because I haven't been on Facebook in years.
Right, we just use that as a common term. It's like Kleenex. Look at that. We did not coordinate this.
No,
okay, go ahead.
I literally spit out my coffee. I'm like, and here I am. I'm on this consciousness quantum journey, and then this post shows up, and I'm like, holy crap.
It actually showed up at the same time that you were even thinking and reading about it. See, that is exactly what we're going to be talking about in the book, is that there are some things in life that are just too weird to be explained by coincidence. It's like too much coincidence to just be coincidence. Could there be something with quantum physics? And we're not going to, that's a whole other podcast. Right. But tell me a little bit more about then what have you experienced with MS, how you're doing, because you're healthy, you're mobile. I mean, you have overcome so much. And how has that happened?
Yeah. So I was diagnosed, talk about doing the most. I was diagnosed in 2010, just about the time that I came to Walsh. So it was depression. It's not just depression from the disease, but it's depression from the medication. It's depression from a loss of life. It's depression from seeing your friends do things that you can't do anymore. I'm a terrible golfer, but I love to be on a golf course. There was no need for me to be on a golf course, right? I can't even go walk to my ball from the cart at that point,
Wow.
So it's just this incredible loss. And then I was lucky. I'm going to hit this 10 more times. But
that's okay. I do the same thing in here. Look at that. Yeah.
I was lucky because I was still fairly mobile at that time.
Wow.
Just distance was more of an issue, but it was the mental aspect. And that's so important. And I will not leave this chair until we talk about that, because that's more important than anything, in my opinion.
Yeah.
In fact, not my opinion. I know that for a fact.
Yeah.
I know doctors agree with me, and Dr. Bruce Lipton, Dr. Tara Swat-Bieber. I mean, these people are neuroscientists and cell biologists who believe in quantum mechanics and the physics.
I can't believe you just said Tara Swart, because I shared one of her. She was on Mel Robbins' podcast
Yes,
recently.
I've listened to it.
Did you listen
Beautiful.
to that? So did I.
Beautiful.
And I thought, oh, this is amazing, because a lot of the research that I had been doing at the same time she was in 2019 with Thrive visualization. So I love that you shared that, because she talks about how we can rewire parts of the brain. You don't lose the old wiring, but you build the new pathways.
Right.
So let's go to there. Let's talk about the mindset piece, because what you're sharing is, look, what has contributed to your health and wellness today has not just been the physical component.
Yep.
You had to make changes with how you think.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I remember one of the mastermind sessions. I was like, I'm going to do 25 pull-ups and I'm going to run a mile by April. As soon as I started that journey, I realized that there's no amount of physical work that's going to get me to that physical goal. I was making the wrong goal. The goal is my mind. The goal is to rewire. Bruce Lipton. It started with a book by Eckhart Tolle called The Power of Now, and that's where I learned that I am me now. I am not my parents in the past. I don't have to carry their trauma any more than I have to carry my own trauma from the past. Right? We gotta move on from these things, and I don't mean that to be dismissive, because you can't move on until you acknowledge it, right? And so that's the first thing. You've got to acknowledge it. You got to see it for what it was, right? The alcoholism, the mental disease, the relationship struggles that I saw growing up. Those were not even their fault. It's empathy and compassion for them, because they were running on a program too. So then enter Bruce Lipton,
Yes.
Dr. Bruce Lipton, and he's saying, listen, your thoughts drive your feelings drive your thoughts,
Right.
and those things change your genes.
Yes. And he did that. Dr. Bruce Lipton, he wrote The Biology of Belief, right?
Yep.
And that was just an eye-opening book, because he had been teaching, I think it was at a medical school in Wisconsin, and he talked about how he would teach cellular biology to med students, and that the science at that point was that a skin cell, a muscle cell, that your DNA controlled the gene's expression, right? And I'm paraphrasing this. Yep. I want to be careful I don't get this too wrong. And yet he did an experiment where he took skin cells and muscle cells, and he put them in each other's culture medium, the medium that surrounded the cells. And the cells changed to become what the medium was.
Absolutely.
So that was sort of the start of what has become known as epigenetics.
Yep.
And epigenetics was sort of very, very new science in 2009, and now it's very accepted science that something above the gene, the gene, determines our genes, turns them on and off, which is why, you'll hear a lot of folks say, and we're not doctors, so we're not making medical claims here. That's the lawyer in me always being very careful, but you'll hear doctors say that a majority of illness and disease, such as cancers and other diseases, are environmental, which can not only mean our environment around us, but our food, our environment in us, the blood, the culture medium, cortisol, stress. So you took such a deep dive approach. And I remember talking to you at one of the mastermind groups and thinking, you get this. You get it on a deep level. And the people that do, Ryan, I will just tell you, I can't speak for the whole world, but the folks that I've seen, probably a handful of people that understand this, they heal and they get healthier to such an extent because they understand the mechanism of action that drives wellness.
That's right. And that was the change for me. I'm not going to run a mile probably in the next month. Well, who knows? I'm not going to say that, right? Because this is what we're talking about. But what I know today is that I'm not going to run a mile in this next minute. But what I don't know is what's possible next time, because anything is possible. Literally anything is possible. And I don't believe that anymore. I know that. And people, sometimes they get a little bit bent out of shape. They're like, well, how do you know? How do you know? I don't know for you, John, Paul. I don't know for you. I know for me. And that's what's important. You need to know for you. And that's your journey. But for me, I know I know that you're a believer and I'm a believer. Mm-hmm. I don't believe in God anymore. I know God. Yeah. I don't know. I don't care. I know what I know, and that's what's important for me. So this, all of these things feed in together, right? And so
I love
to kind of, back up, to do the healing journey, you have to heal your mind, because you have to know what you're putting into what thoughts you're putting in, what feelings you're then putting in, feeling them in your body and understanding. I was just today, when I was walking out of my office, I recognized that when I do a little stumble, my body tenses up. Well, why is my body tensing up? Because I'm here like, man, you stumbled. As soon as I say, it was just a stumble, relax.
Yep.
Then
look what happens. Everything relaxes. This is great.
Then my body relaxes. Yeah. Go figure, right? So here we can talk about it on a big scale. We can talk about it the decisions that you make every day.
Yes.
And we do that. We beat ourselves up, and we don't even know it.
Yeah, no, and it's so true. It's in the mind. There's so much. Now, the tough part is we know it, but as you and I have spoken, and we do at the mastermind, the subconscious is so powerful. To get change, you have to work with that part of the brain to actually see it. And that's what you were talking about, is, understanding that a lot of the belief systems we have, the stuff that we think. In fact, there was just a study, I think, by a professor out of Harvard, and he talked about how we have 60,000 thoughts in a day. Yep. And about 90% of those are repetitive. Yes, they're repetitive. They're kind of like fears activating. They're us pattern matching. Our brains are these incredible pattern matching machines. So understanding that and saying, okay, am I thinking or am I remembering? Yep. And that trauma, that can even play out in our past, because as you and I were talking about, like, some of the stuff we didn't even go through. It was our parents that went through that. Something I wanted to highlight too is what was the turning point for you, though, when you started to see the effect of the power of the mind on your health and healing? Like, did you always believe that, or was there a turning point that happened? Yeah. So I always thought it. Mm-hmm. I always thought it, because I knew again. I hate going back to the past, but I knew that I didn't want to be an alcoholic. Mm-hmm. I knew I didn't want to be a deadbeat dad, right? So I always knew, and then I became a fantastic father. Good for you.
I didn't become an alcoholic, but I didn't know what I could be, right? So kind of coming back to that, I didn't know what I get it. You didn't want the negative, but it didn't still open up where you wanted to go. So I kind of waffled back and forth. Like, I know that I can do this. I know that I can do this. Oh, maybe I can't. Maybe I can't. So then the turning points, right? First, it was the power of now, learning that I don't have to do those things. Learning that the power is right now. The decision that I make right now, that's the only power I have. I don't have any power for the future. I don't have any power for what's in the past right now. It was Dr. Lipton, a couple of his videos. He would also say that 95% of what you do every day is because of the programming that you got from the time you were 0 to 7.
Yes.
And we just repeat these patterns. Mm-hmm. And then, I did some different, I started meditating about 5 years ago. And you cannot meditate well and not be conscious. So becoming conscious of myself was just another groundbreaking thing. I have a fantastic therapist, right? And so over the 5 years that there was not a point, there has been points, and that's what the book will be about. It will be about those points. Every time I hit a writer's block, I open up my journal. There it is. October 22nd, 2023. That was another point that I need to come back to. Yeah. So it's all of these points that have gotten me here.
Well, okay, let's go into this idea of knowing. And you brought this up, and I think it's a great one. Like we talked about, we're people of faith, and you're right. There is this just sort of knowing in our ethos, in our whole existence of what we know to be true. Yep. It doesn't always mean we live it very well. It doesn't. I mean, no. I've always said it's like you can know something. It doesn't mean you do it the way you should. But it's also this idea that, like, I always had that knowing that, like, I was meant to hook into something bigger. I just felt like I was meant to be part of a bigger vision. And I know for me, coming to Walsh, it was as if, and I've said this before, I grew a new heart. It was like, wow, I had no idea that this is the greatest responsibility of my life, to be entrusted with this incredible college, with our team, 33,000 alumni. You're included in that. And we have our students, and we have our community, and our staff, and our faculty, and everything. And so you think about this 100-year legacy, 101 years old, right? And it's so cool too, Ryan, because we were founded by Mervyn Walsh, who was the accountant for Thomas Edison.
No kidding.
Yeah, so Mervyn Walsh was Thomas Edison's accountant. So when I talk about like how we lit up the world for the last 100 years, we literally helped light up the world, and we're going to do that in the future. But there's so much here, and I think when you can find that purpose, it pulls you out of some of those beliefs as well. So another thing I've heard people say is, in addition to understanding the power of, like you said, I didn't want to just not be these things. Yeah. Where was I going to go? How am I going to live out of my vision and not my past? Because too many people are living out of their past, or I just don't want to be this. Okay, but what is your vision for the future? Yeah. So now let's shift to something really cool, something very exciting. So quantum physics and quantum entanglement. And I'll say a few words on that because it's going to connect to what you're about to share. So in 2022, there were 3 physicists that won the Nobel Prize. Now, they were all doing experiments at different times for their work in quantum entanglement. And quantum entanglement basically says that 2 subatomic particles separated by potentially light years can be entangled or synchronized through measurement. And this cannot be explained in classical physics. In fact, it actually frustrated Einstein because he didn't understand this. He said there must be some hidden variables. But this sounds very broad, but the sort of Dr. Seussian version is time itself could be quantum, meaning that many times we think we're moving through linearly, but we're really moving through with these quantum entanglement connections such that sometimes things happen. Either it's you're thinking about your book, you're writing about all this quantum stuff, and you get my note on LinkedIn. Or something happens in your life and you say, this is too much of a stretch for me to just say this is coincidence. It's almost as if the universe read my mind and then produced this result. You know, we joke about that with our cell phones. Like we say something and all of a sudden an ad comes up, and we know that that's likely a little different than this. But give me an example in your life where something like quantum happened, and then what you saw in it and how it felt. It couldn't have just been coincidence. There had to be something at work in the universe.
We keep dancing around it, but this right now is that for me. It really truly is. Coming back to Walsh the second time, so I had started this journey of consciousness, and that created the intent. Realizing that the reason that I came to Walsh the first time and the reason that I came to Walsh the second time are the exact same reason.
Wow.
The exact same reason. I want to be a part of something bigger, and I want to be better. And where do I go to do that? Holy crap. Where do I go? And I didn't do it on purpose. I just set the intent, right? And so this is, I feel like people would be like, well, you probably did that on purpose. Well, no, it didn't. I was actually on Walsh's website as a normal person who, sure, I was conscious and I was meditating, I was doing these things, but it wasn't like, I'm going to do this and then that's going to lead to me writing a book, because before that, I wasn't writing a book. I was journaling every day. I wasn't writing a book. Right? So the second time I came to Walsh as a person with intent, I was kicking off that entanglement.
Well, so in essence, it's almost like in 2010 and then in 2023, was it 22? Okay, those moments were connected in time by getting your thoughts connected with the energy, the vibration of, I want to become better. I want to become better. I want to up level. I can hook into something bigger. There's something for me to do. There's a contribution for me to make. At the time in 2010, it was for your family. It was for yourself. It was for your wife, for your daughter. It was for all of this. And now it's like, what's my next big leap in life? I love that.
Yep,
yeah,
absolutely. And then here I am on the verge of my next big leap in life.
Oh,
I'm going to finish this book.
Yes.
And this is incredible, and so, for me, it's like, I could look at it as it's all 3 different things. It's a personal journey, it's my journey with Walsh, and it's my professional journey. But right now, all 3 of them are colliding.
Yes.
That is literal entanglement, because at all points, even in my job, I want it to be something more, something bigger, a part of something bigger.
Yeah.
So as I'm going, I'm seeing this entanglement. I'm seeing the power of my own observations, and that one gets a little bit dicey, right? Because everyone says, "Oh, you're not observing God," and blah blah blah. Okay, that's not what the quantum physicists were out to prove. They were not trying to prove God. We all understand that. But within me, the power of observation, the power of observing myself.
Well, that's taking the measurement. So in some ways, right. So this is such a beautiful conversation, because without even having a physicist here, we kind of do, but in the sense of, when you take a measurement, when you actually focus attention on something, that's when, according to quantum physics, in the measurement realm, now there is some debate about what is a measurement, that's when you see the expression of the particle. That's when it goes into its fixed state. Yep. So for us as leaders, for us as human beings moving through the world, high performers, always developing, when we set an intention, we're setting a measurement out there in the universe to connect us with that higher thing, that better goal. Yep. And I cannot tell you how many times, Ryan, I have done that at Walsh, where I've set an intention. You might call it a goal, you might call it a standard, you might call it something Susie's working on, and you think there's no way that can happen given our past, given, let's say, the history, given the location, and then all of a sudden something incredible occurs, and you can say, oh, what a coincidence, or isn't that weird, right? Or you can say, is there something at work here we cannot measure with physical science? Yeah. If we know that, and that seems to resonate with what Bruce Lipton talked about as well, because his later works, his later writings and videos actually talked about the neuroscience level of quantum consciousness even, and that we're all part of a larger whole. And obviously with our faith, we believe that, but now we're actually seeing how that can be enfleshed a little bit from the scripture, is that we are part of something bigger, and how we operate affects others. So talk a little bit about when you started to make these shifts in your life, in your thinking, in how you move through the world. What did you notice in the folks around you that changed or didn't change, or what did you see?
Oh, just immeasurable.
Yeah.
Immeasurable. So I have since been remarried, and people don't know this, right? They think you get married and for the second time you run off into the sunset. The second one is hard because you take all the other garbage and you just put it on this other person, right? Yeah. And so it's hard. Well, I can tell you that being on this journey saved my marriage.
Wow.
Right? Because now I can look at myself and I can look at her differently. I can see how my energy, not just the words that I speak, but the energy I put out, and then hers too, and I can understand how that energy is affecting me. So that's one way, right? At work, the relationships that I have, I'm able to have better relationships with people because I'm not stressed. Work doesn't stress me out anymore. Work is a thing that we have to say this, right? At some point, you have to realize that the universe is not working against you.
Yes,
the universe is working for you.
I love this,
right?
Ryan. Yes,
and
yes.
So,
these things aren't happening to me. They're happening for me. They may be happening so I grow, and that's why it can feel like a stretch, but this is all happening for me. Agreed. Yes.
And to go back to the point you made, we're... No, I forgot.
Oh, it's all right. Sorry, I interrupted you because I was so excited about that.
But the
relationships at work. You were talking about this incredible relationships at work.
So those get better because I'm not stressed out. When I have a difficult phone call, I can just hear it. And I've always been fairly good at that because I'm an empath. Because I just want everyone to be happy. But now I do it without being at the expense of myself.
Yes.
When you're an empath, you do it and it hurts you.
Yeah.
When you're conscious of it, you do it and it makes you feel better and it makes other people around you feel better.
Isn't that the truth? Yeah. Because how many people are listening that can identify with that and say, yeah, I really take it on when there's a difficult conversation at work. And so many times we do that. We come away with it, we stew about it, we worry about it, and it just disrupts it. Talk about cortisol in our body, right? Yep. Versus looking at it like this is an occurrence that happened. I don't have to take this with me. I can reflect on it, but I can be reflective on it without taking it on myself, right? And I think that's the most important thing. When you were talking about the traumas and the baggage that we might have, I literally got the vision of carrying a suitcase through the airport, right? And if you're dragging a suitcase, you're taking it. But imagine if we were dragging these suitcases and we didn't even realize we had them. And somebody comes up to us and says, why are you carrying that with you? What do you mean I'm carrying this with me? You have a suitcase here and it's not even your stuff and it's old people's stuff and it's people in your past stuff and why do you have this? And you say, well, I didn't even know I had it. And I don't know if I can let go of it. If I let go, what will I do with this hand? Who am I going to be? Who am I going to be? And that is the key, is sometimes we have these things in life where we say, subconsciously, if I don't have this limitation, then I don't have an excuse for why I can't be what I know I can do. And it's helping each other see that. You also talked about how it gives you empathy for folks, and I can affirm that, because I know sometimes I can, get a little in my head about, why is this person reacting this way? Don't they see that they need to shift? And it gives me empathy to say, yeah, but imagine how hard that can be in the moment. So I think what you spoke into from a leadership standpoint was not only strength of vision, clarity of vision and mindset, but the empathy that you have for each other.
Yeah, absolutely. And in the end, that's what we're doing here. Mm-hmm. We can chat and we can email all day, but in the end, it's the people we're talking to. Yes. Right? That's what's going to make the difference. I mean, I'm a salesperson, and COVID was so difficult because I learned that you sell on the concrete. You get out, you talk to people. When you can't do that, you are stifled. Mm-hmm. You're stifled, and so that empathy, that being able to listen, and I will say it again, and it not take away from you.
I love that.
Is so important. It's how you create a better relationship, not just one that's built on, hey man, I get it. Yeah. No, it's, hey, I understand. So how can I help?
Oh,
that is
how
can
perfect.
I help you with that?
Yeah.
So that just, again, that was one of them. And then all the little things that come along with that, finding different YouTube videos, the suggestions that I get on YouTube. Yeah, I'm doing these things, but now these things are not coming to me because my intent is to find them, and and so they come. The you writing a book, me writing a book, me joining WHAM, you doing the LinkedIn post, the guys in the group that, I had a conversation with Alex after the last one, and I'm like, here's a chapter of the book. Oh. If I wasn't here, then I wouldn't even have thought about that.
Well, and WHAM keeps everyone accountable. That's what I like about it, is it takes our mindset, it takes our goals, and it really has you set, and that's the other thing too, is when you set intention and you write down a goal and you share it with others, that's part of the reason sometimes I'll let someone know, I'm working on this book, I'm writing this book, I'm not working on, because I love the phrase I'm working on, it doesn't mean I'm doing anything. It could be, but it's like, this book is going to come out on this date, here's what it's going to be. It holds me accountable because I want to be a credible individual. That's very important to me. And I think that's part of setting this intention too. The other thing is, when you do this, when you shift, the physics, again, going back to physics, there's a law called entrainment of physics, where if you were to look at metronomes or even those cuckoo clocks that are set to different, frequencies, they all synchronize within a minute and a half, because anything that's made of molecules that has a vibration will synchronize with the dominant vibration. Yep. Human beings are made of molecules. We vibrate at 0.10 megahertz, so we are going to synchronize with the folks around us. Yep. And making sure that when we up level, we're always having, like you talked about, having YouTube videos or podcasts. I mean, I'm part of a Growth Day app with Ed Milet and Brendan Bouchard. So every morning they are pouring in my brain, thank goodness, to help me stay out of my fear, my own head, my anxiety, So I love that we can talk about those things at the Alumni Mastermind, and that you are working on this book, because I do feel like that's going to be your next breakthrough. We are so proud of you at Walsh. We will help you. We will promote that. We will stand behind you. You can come in here and do it. We'll do a whole episode on your book. But tell us a little bit about what you're going to talk about in the book and kind of what you want people to take away.
Yeah. So the book, again, is going to be on my healing journey. Every day something new comes to me. What I want is I want to be able to tell my story without the past, because what I don't, there has to be a part of it, because the acknowledgement, again, is so important. But in the end, I want the book to be something that people read and get encouragement from. I'm going to be, see how easy it is, right?
Yes.
It's so easy to say it in a defeatist way. What I am going to be is somebody that reaches somebody that needs to be reached. Yeah. And that's the goal of the book. I want it to make me money. I won't be shy about that. You taught me that, right?
Yes, we do teach about the importance of money for mission. Yes,
for mission, right?
Mm-hmm. But I agree. Yeah. It has impact that way. You really want it to have that impact. Your story is going to help and resonate with folks who are stuck and who need that help getting forward.
Yep.
And they're going to go, thank goodness for this book.
Yep.
Yeah.
And if I can tell my story a little bit different than other people have told that story, then I'll reach somebody.
Yeah.
And I know that I will. The fact that we're talking now, we reached each other.
Yes.
It's just so powerful. I want to maybe just jump back real quick. Because you
Yeah,
talked
of course.
about the vibration, and people don't believe it. They don't, and I don't. Sometimes I want to bang myself in the head, like, why don't they believe? You said it. Why don't they see that? But we do see it, but it's in the extreme examples. I'm reminded of jumping on the phone with somebody who cussed everybody up and down. Well, they were giving vibrations out.
Yes.
That's what the
low level vibrations, but vibrations.
Whole level of vibration.
Yes.
They were giving their voice vibrations, right? And you receive that. You receive not just the words, you receive the vibrations. And so it's the extremes that come along with it. And then again, on the quantum level, we're also putting out vibrations and we're receiving vibrations. And so that's why it's so important about what you're going to put out.
Oh, I love when you said that. And it's interesting because you wonder if the Ryan of today, of 2024, is even connecting back with the Ryan of 2010 and saying, for you to be here today in studio with us, to be working on your book, to be going to the next level, I need you, Ryan, to enroll in Walsh College. And the Walsh College Ryan that was enrolling said it to the future Ryan, hang on, I'm coming. Yeah, I love that. And you're right. Why don't we see it? Well, if we, as we know from physics, sometimes you don't see the actual mechanism, but you see the effect of it. So we do see the synchronization of the metronomes. We do see the synchronization of the clocks. And we also see what can happen when people over time hang out in certain groups, right? Yeah. So if you hang out with complainers, people that are in breakdown, that are always making excuses, you either kind of shape to be that if you don't have a strong vibration the other way, or you will entrain out. And the same happens when you're with really positive, uplifting people. They almost pull you forward. And that's what we see in WHAM. Yep. That's why when you come to Walsh, you develop not only that community with your students, your peers, and your faculty, but also with your fellow alumni when you graduate, because we want to make sure there's opportunities, whether it's through the Alumni Mastermind, through Walsh Leadership Academy. We're now looking, and I shared with you a little bit at the Mastermind, to build up like a leadership coaching program so that folks can enroll in a much higher level of leadership coaching, more resources, because again, like, we become the 5 people we spend the most time with. Yep. So we want to create that environment for our future self, to become our very best future self. And I think that's incredible. Well, how can people, if they're interested in connecting with you, just to talk about your journey, to learn a little bit about your book, and then obviously once the book is out, they'll connect with you, but what is the best way for them to connect with you?
I'm fairly active on LinkedIn. That's probably the best way to do
LinkedIn
it.
is just so great, isn't it? Yeah. It's just a great
wonderful
portal. Mm-hmm.
The first time that I put any of my writing out was on LinkedIn. I figured that's where I have the most followers, the most connections. So why not? And lo and behold, there was positive feedback from that. And I'm like, oh man.
This is so great. Yeah.
Incredible.
So good.
I can't believe it. But
so you're on LinkedIn. Perfect.
Yep,
yeah,
so
I know
LinkedIn
you're on there because I see you on there. Very good.
Yep.
Well, Ryan, I am so grateful. Thank you so much for joining us. We are so proud that you are an alum. I'm so proud that I got to know you. You're part of an inspirational group for me, obviously with Walsh Alumni Mastermind, but I can't wait to read your book. I can't wait to have you in a chapter in my book, and we will be in touch very soon. So thank you so much for joining us. What an incredible story. Ryan Pettey, one of our alumni all-stars. And, I always say that our mission is realized in the world when our alumni are living it. And Ryan is a great example of living it in the world. And I cannot wait to read his book, and I can't wait to see what the even future Ryan will bring. So thank you so much for joining us today.